Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do have a committee sub, House Committee Sub 1. Could you have the clerk report?
Mr. Clerk, please report.
House Committee Sub 1 to House Bill 346.
Gentleman from Laurel.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Move adoption.
Motion made for the adoption of House Committee Substitute 1. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. House Committee Substitute 1 is adopted. Gentleman from Laurel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So in Kentucky, this bill does two things, but in Kentucky, this came up last year, but it's been ongoing for about 2 years. So it was a regulation that came through Administrative Regulation Review Subcommittee dealing with the emission fees that we pay to the Division of Air Quality. And so the current governor's administration had a regulation come through that they were proposed. And to be honest with you, I like the regulation. It did affect the distillers somewhat. And so the first part of this bill is it carves out emergency generators from our distillers. So these emergency generators are typically used for fire suppression, and it's really a workforce issue, right? But they're getting charged on these to have these emergency generators, and so it impacts worker safety. But the distillers are getting charged anywhere from $11,000 to $611,000 per facility. So it's a workforce issue on that to make sure our workers are safe. And then the other reason is we're adding some clarification in our in the bill to where the emergency generators currently are defined by the cabinet, and I think it's a wrong interpretation myself, but we're clearing that up. But they are stricter on the definition than the EPA is. So we're actually using EPA language to define our emergency generators and to help out on that front. The second thing this bill does is it removes the emission cap. And so the emission cap is currently at 4,000 tons. And so it goes by how much emitters, how much pollution essentially is coming that you are generating is based on the fees. So if you have a cap and you keep, if you do away with the cap, it does away with the cap is what the bill does. And so when you do that, about 708 entities, so companies across Kentucky, companies like Toyota, 3M, I've got Ecotech down in my neck of the woods, but the emission fees are actually reduced significantly. And so there are 4 entities impacted: LG&E, Big Rivers, TVA, and East Kentucky Power. Before I filed the bill, I reached out to all of these, and the Big Rivers, East Kentucky Power, and LG&E, they are not opposed to this bill. And in my discussions with it, they seem to think it's pretty fair. TVA is not directly coming out and opposing, but they did leave comments during the public comment section going through the regulatory review process, and they would like to see other language that I believe you'll hear about in an amendment. But I like this language on removing the cap as a whole because essentially you get charged for what you use, and I think that's fair, and we're not subsidizing other companies. But I would be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, I would move for passage of House Bill 346 amended by House Committee Sub 1.